Hey, everyone. We are live for the first of many Lunch and Learn series that I'm going to add to the Phoenix REIA. Obviously, at the Phoenix REIA, we get together on the third Tuesday of the month, which is great, but obviously, and then we don't do it over the summer because you guys all travel and have a good time. But so what I decided to do is add some Lunch and Learn series throughout throughout the year, just to give you kind of more content. There's going to be the buy and hold one. We're going to do one on foreclosures. We can actually have Oggie, because he does some foreclosures as well. We can have him jump onto that one as well. We're going to do some novations, some creative finance stuff. I also run the Red Room on Tuesday, but today we're going to jump in with Oggie, and we're going to go to buy and hold investments, and this is going to be a Lunch and Learn series on that. So Oggie, go ahead, and I don't want to mess it up, but you're an investor, you're a broker, you own a property management company, you own rentals yourself. You can take it from there.
So yeah, a little bit about me. Got my real estate license. That's how I started my real estate career, if you say that, in 2005. 2007, I became full-time real estate broker. 2010, I opened my own brokerage. So, and during the foreclosure in 2007-8, I started working with a lot of banks. I did a lot of short sales, everything on the foreclosure side. So that helped me understand the fix and flip process, management properties for banks, all their foreclosure techniques and investment techniques. So in 2015-16, I started buying rental properties for myself. So that's how I started acquiring portfolio. Right now, it's going pretty good, over 15 properties, 20 some doors in when I started acquiring properties, then I said, like, hey, if I'm going to have rental properties, why not start a property management company? So in 2020, we started ProX Realty Management. So full service, long-term property management in Maricopa County for investors. So all this, why I'm saying all this, and I'm actively buying investment properties from wholesalers, from direct to market, pay-per-click, trustee sales. So why I'm saying this, I have a unique 360 view of the whole buy and hold process, from being as a real estate broker, being a property manager, being an owner. So I can kind of have a unique view of every single angle of the transaction and the process. So what we're going to do here with you is, in these series, I'd like to bring real life tips and scenarios that can help people either improve their rental income or build a portfolio with different tips and tricks how to do that. So
yeah, so let's just jump in the first question before you get way back in there. Obviously, a lot of people that have come to me, and they're like, oh, well, you can't build a portfolio right now because the interest rates are high. So, like, what would you say to that person as a...
You're correct. However, that's going to be actually the topic of our first meeting today. I'd like to go of the 5 ways how we, as a buy and hold investors, we make money.
Okay.
Because what most people are but used to the cash flow, and that's what they're thinking about. But there's 4 other ways that, even if no cash flow, like in this market right now, you cannot get cash flow. However, you can still make money with negative cash flow properties. So, but
well, do you suggest that people get negative cash flow properties, or, I mean, do they need to kind of at least break even, correct?
No.
Okay.
My 2 properties that I bought 2 months ago and 4 months ago, they both have negative cash flow. My mortgage is higher than the rent I'm getting per month. However, once I adjust my tax structure at the end of the year, I'm making money by paying less taxes than I'm supposed to.
Right. So you're
because
giving it
the rental properties,
negative cash flow versus giving it to the government.
Exactly. So my I have losses from my rental properties, and I take these losses and I apply them towards my active income, which is fix and flipping, uh, commissions from property management, sales, all that, I reduce my taxes that I have to pay to IRS. So
Right.
that's how I make money in this market.
Now, do you do any as you add rentals to your portfolio? Do you do any accelerated interest or accelerated depreciation or cost segregation, or is it just do you just do it over the full 27-year schedule?
I don't do that. I mean, if there's a unique situation, I would do the accelerated depreciation.
Okay.
However, it's a big sexy talk.
Yeah.
You should not do it, because if you dig deeper into the tax structure and the tax rules about accelerated depreciation, it's not that good. It's not that good at all. And there's a lot of many ways to save on taxes. So
All right. So why don't you
it's
jump
just
into your
Mhm.
5 ways you're going to make money on your rentals?
Yeah. So let's start with the basics. Number one, when we buy rental property and hold it, we make money because the property goes up in value.
Right.
That's very basic. The good thing here is, let's say in our Phoenix market, Maricopa County, for the last 20 years, the average appreciation of of investment property or single family home is 4.5% per year. And we count this also in 2008, when we had this huge crash in the market with 50% reduction in prices sometimes. But when you take 20 years, we have 4.5% increase every year. So here's the other thing with the appreciation. You don't have to wait 20 years for the property to go up in value. What you can do, we call it forced appreciation, or basically fix and flip. Just don't sell it, just keep it, and find the property below market value, fix it up, and increase the value yourself. And instead of waiting 20 years, you can get it done within 2 months. So that's the beauty of this buy and hold, that we get money from the property going up in value. That's number one.
Yeah, and if you
Number
look at the 2008 that properties went down 50%, they only technically went down 50% if you had to be a seller, right? If you're not selling,
That's
it,
true.
if you're not, it's just
In,
like if you buy a stock, like if you'd have bought Bitcoin at the high as 60 and then you would have sold at 16, I think that's the lowest point it hit last year, you would have obviously lost whatever that is, $44 or, but if you're not a seller, guess what? I think it's back to like in the mid 40s.
yeah,
So
if you can hold it, just rent the property, keep paying the mortgage, because the prices went down 50%, but the rent kept increasing.
yeah.
It didn't go down at all. So you could have held it and still make money after so many years.
All right, let's get to number two. What's number two besides
Number two, even if you don't get any appreciation for some reason, your mortgage is getting paid off by the tenant. You collect rent, and that rent goes towards paying the mortgage. At some point, you're going to have a free and clear property, regardless if the prices go up. Historically, they always do, but if they don't, and you get the rent, and the rent pays the mortgage. So that's number two. And going up in price and going down in mortgage at the same time. All right, the other thing, number three, we're getting rent, correct?
Yep.
But the rent brings us cash flow. And the cash flow, it's constantly increasing. So the third way we make money is by cash flow going up, because the cash flow is connected with the rent. And the rent, the amount of rent you get per month, is connected with the inflation in the country and constantly going up. Your mortgage, it's locked for 30 years, but the rent keeps going up. So if you buy a property today, your rent is $1,500, mortgage is $1,700. In 5 years, the rent could be $2,200 or $2,300 or $2,500. Your mortgage is still going to be 17. So you're negative cash flow now, but with the years, the cash flow keeps improving.
Yeah. Well, one guy that I met with a long time ago, and when I was first talking about rentals, he's like, your mortgage is 1,500, but you're not paying $1,500 a month. Like right now, you're paying it over 30 years. And what's that? What's the value of that $1,500 with inflation? 30 years from now.
Yes, you're jumping ahead of me. So that's one of the
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to.
ways. So number three, yes, the cash flow goes up in value. That's goes up, and as the inflation goes up, and the cash flow improves.
Right.
Number four, taxes and tax advantages. So when we buy real estate, we have a lot of tax advantages because simply the government knows that they cannot efficiently provide housing for all the population in the country.
Right. Well,
So
they just couldn't do it well.
They couldn't do it well. So they created an enormous benefits for investors that work in real estate to provide housing. So that's how they stimulate the housing industry, not by doing it themselves or putting money into it, just by giving huge tax deductions. So for us as a real estate investors, it's absolutely necessary to know the tax code and play by the rules so we can keep, I would say, 100% of the profit we make from buy and hold investments. And I'm not kidding. As a buy and hold investors, we have ways that never to pay taxes legally, just avoid it by using the rules of IRS. I'll give you an example. Let's say once we buy a rental property, this rental property becomes a business. Each property is a business. So now IRS requires us to depreciate the building. And in a residential real estate, the way you take the value of the building and divide it by 27 and a half years. And that gives you a dollar amount that you can deduct from your profits. So this depreciation, it's on paper. It's the best thing ever. It's the government gives you free money, kind of. So let's say you buy a property for 350,000. The land value is about, let's say, 80,000.
Is there a formula for that? Let's say I'm going to look at this rental across the street and it's 350. How do you gauge the land value?
You have to use some official source. So what we do, we use either MLS comps or the tax assessed value.
Okay.
So something official that you can, if you come, IRS comes to you and say, hey, how did you figure out this? Yeah, I use this official source, and that's how I did it. So let's say, and the way it is you can deduct only the value of the building. So you take the value of the property, deduct the value of the land, and you have the value of the building. You take that and you divide it by 27 and a half years. Okay. So for example, 350 minus 80,000 land value, you're left with 270. You take 270 divided by 27 and a half years, roughly $10,000 a year in imaginary deductions that you can add to your taxes.
Right.
So let's say every month I get positive cash flow, somewhere $700-800 a month. That gives me a $10,000 profit for the year on cash flow from my rental. And I have 10,000 positive, but at the end I take the deduction from my depreciation on the building and I offset my positive cash flow. So one is an expense, one is a profit. At the end, on taxes, I show zero. I took the $10,000, put it in my pocket, I spend it, and I paid zero taxes to IRS. So that's how the depreciation or tax code helps us a lot. So we don't pay taxes on the income from cash from rent, cash flow rent.
Yeah. So if you were doing this, if you had 10 of them, you could be making 700 a month times 10. So $7,000 a month, which is, everybody I think every ad out there for real estate or real estate gurus or whatever, I mean, the line is financial freedom, right? That's
Yeah,
everybody's line. It's like you're building your financial freedom. And I don't know, I mean, everybody has a different level of financial freedom. I know that my financial freedom number is just 10 grand a month. Like I don't drive any Ferraris or, I just drive around in my F-150 or whatever, so my financial freedom number is pretty low, but so maybe I got to get to what, at $700 a month cash flow, I got to get to like 13 or 14. But with what you're saying is I could make 10 grand a month and not pay any taxes.
exactly. No taxes. But here's a little trick. The depreciation that you have, it reduces your taxes because it's an expense, and you on your tax return says zero income. But
Right.
when you go and apply for mortgage, the bank looks at the same tax return and says, okay, you made no money from rentals. Or say, oh, by the way, okay, actually, I see that we have a depreciation. All right, for us, depreciation is equal to income. They take the depreciation and they move it to the income column. So if you have 10 properties, 10,000 depreciation for each one, that's $100,000 of depreciation. You pay zero taxes, but when you go to apply for a mortgage, they consider that you're making a cash income of $100,000, and they can get you qualified based on $100,000 income.
Right.
So you pay no taxes, but you still get qualified for a mortgage at the same time. And the tax code doesn't stop there. We can they allow, like IRS allows us to exchange properties. Let's say you don't like a property, that it's too far from you cannot manage it, different state. You can sell the property and you can get the profit and move it to another rental property without paying any taxes, as far as you follow the rules, and that's called 1031 exchange. You take all the income, move it to another investment property, and you don't have to pay taxes. And actually, you would have to pay if you ever sell that other property. You just defer not paying the taxes. In this way, you just use the money that you were supposed to pay to taxes to IRS. You just put a little bit higher down payment, you buy higher value property, you make a better return. So you just defer and you don't pay taxes on the money right away. So you pay down the road, maybe. However, down the road may never come also, because there's another rule from IRS, and that's the step-up basis rule, which it's for inheriting property. So when you, let's say you buy a property for 100,000 and you're 85 years old, your property is worth $1 million at that time. If you sell it, you're gonna pay profit taxes, capital gain taxes on a $900,000 profit over your lifetime. However, if you don't sell it and you give it to your kids as an inheritance, that $900,000 of profit is wiped out.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
the kids inherit the property at the current market value of your death, time of your death. So they inherit the property at $1 million. If they sell it for $1 million, they don't pay any taxes. If they sell it for $1,010,000, they pay only on $10,000. So the beauty is that right now, for 2024, the step-up basis limit on inheritance increased, and it's a little bit over $30 million per person.
Wow.
So family, 26 million. So I can buy properties through my life, wherever my life, hopefully 85, 90, whatever.
95.
95. I accumulate $20 million in equity, and I pass it to my kids, and they pay zero taxes.
That's
So,
awesome.
so
So is
that's
that
why it's very, very important to learn the tax game. You got to play the tax game so you don't pay taxes from your cash flow, and never pay taxes on your capital gain income too.
that's awesome. So is that all 5 steps?
No, number 5, and you mentioned it earlier. So inflation is the thing that a lot of people do not talk about. But so because inflation is really negative for the economy and really negative for everybody overall. Inflation is killing your income. You cannot buy stuff. It's killing your equity. It's killing everything. However, as a buy and hold investors, we love inflation. It's our greatest help because what we do is we leverage our rental properties with financing from the banks. So we finance them and we take loans at the current market, at the current value of the dollar, but we pay it down the road later, 10, 20 years with deflated dollar, with cheaper dollars. So we borrow at expensive dollar and we pay it with cheaper dollar. So this way, it's way easier for us to pay the loans we got down the road because our rent increases, but the mortgage, it's always stays the same. So when you combine these 4 or 5 things all together, you're getting significant return, and return that you cannot get in any other investment. And I did the calculation. So in a regular property, 250,000, let's say, if you can get it, you put 20% down payment and you get a mortgage for 200,000 based on 3 to 4% increase in prices and 3 to 4% increase in the rent. Everything combined brings you over a span of 20, 25 years, you get anywhere between 40 to 60% return on your initial investment. And that's per year, not altogether.
That's
So
awesome.
there's no other investment as real estate that gives you such return on such a low risk. Like you said, if you're not pressured to sell, you just have to hold it because market is up and down, up and down. You just wait for the market. You're not pressured to sell. Just hold it and sell at the right time.
Yeah, a lot of people in the financial crisis sold because their perception is they owned a $200,000 house that was now worth $100,000. But if they would have, it's worth more than $200,000 now. So it just, if you didn't
Yeah,
have to sell, it just was their perception that their house was worth less than they probably owed on the property.
that's why you don't have to focus on just one thing. You can focus on the taxes, paying down the mortgage, you focus on the rent. So we can move these things, depends on the market. You can still make money out of it. It depends on the situation. So, but if you're flipping houses or wholesaling houses, I'll give you a secret. You're not an investor. You have a job.
Yeah.
So the sooner you start keeping one of your properties that you're fixing and flipping or wholesaling, the better for you. And it's going to create generational wealth, and it's going to have something that is really investment, not a job. So
Yeah. No, your flipping and your wholesaling is your active income, right? So that's,
yeah.
and which is great. I mean, we all need the active income, but your short-term rentals, your long-term rentals, all that stuff is what, and especially if you had them, and obviously, appreciation in property values goes in cycles. Like you have the average 4 to 5%, like you talked about, but some years you get 20%, right? Like we've got a couple
Mhm.
of years in the COVID year, so.
Yeah, but during this time, like right now, cash flow sucks. It doesn't exist. However, you can make money from taxes.
Yeah.
So as a fix and flipper or wholesaler, there's a special designation with IRS that you're considered a real estate professional. So anyone that spends more than 750 hours per year in real estate activity and 51% of the time is dedicated to real estate activities, you have a special designation called real estate professional. You don't need to have a real estate license or anything like that. It's just the activity in the business. If you're a real estate professional, IRS allows you to take unlimited amount of losses from your rental or real estate activity and pass it to your taxes on your regular income from W-2, fix and flip, wholesale. So if you're a successful fix and flipper and a wholesaler, you make a good transaction, you make a lot of money, but a lot of this money go towards paying taxes. If you have rentals, you can reduce your taxes down to half of what you're paying at the moment. I guarantee it to you.
Yeah. All right, let's just put this in the notes for people that are watching this later. So what was step number one?
Number one is you make money because the property goes up in value.
Appreciation
And forced appreciation. You don't have to wait for 20 years for the price to go up. You just find a property, fix it up, and artificially increase the value. So
number two was cash flow.
Number two is paying down the mortgage. Even if the prices don't go up as expected, at some point you're going to have a free and clear property because the rent from the tenants pays down the mortgage.
Number three.
Number three is cash flow constantly increases because the rent, you start with one rent amount, but the rent is related to the inflation in the country and constantly going up. So you're starting with 1,000 or 1,500 rent per month. In 5 years, could be 2,000 based on the increase in cost.
And then 4 was tax depreciation.
Taxes, yes, you have to play the tax game. If you know the tax rules, I'm not kidding you, you could save 100% of the taxes that you're paying right now. There's a lot of benefits.
And then 5 was
inflation. Everybody hates inflation, but we as a buy and hold investors, we love it. It's our hidden secret.
Yeah.
So in order for the inflation to take full advantage of the inflation, you have to borrow money. You have to work with borrowed money. Debt that is on a fixed rate.
Yeah.
Yes, fixed rate as low as possible, and you're gonna win the game against the inflation.
Well, cool. So we're 27 and a half minutes. We like to keep these for 30 minutes, nice and short and sweet. Go ahead and give us what we're going to cover over the next 4 to 5 weeks so people can come back and we can.
So over the next 4 or 5 weeks, I'm going to go over all my secrets. I'll give you all my secrets, guys. How I built my portfolio using 100% of banks' money, borrowed money, no money out of my pocket. How I use my tax systems to become bankable with the banks so I can borrow as much as I want. And so next time we're going to talk specifically about how to pick the best rental property. What are the features of the best rental properties? So when you see it, you keep it as a rental. Then we're going to talk about property management tips and tricks. Then I'm going to go and give you a little secret about how we buy below market value properties. We finance them in a special way, and then we use the equity against the down payment, and we borrow 100% of the bank's money on a 30-year fixed rate to keep our rentals. We call it burn on steroids. So that's a good strategy that can help you increase your portfolio significantly. So also, if you guys have a specific question, specific scenario, specific problem that me and Chris can address related to buy and hold, just type it in the comments, and then if we don't talk about it now, we can address it in the beginning of the next video.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, just comment below whether you saw this on YouTube or the Phoenix REIA group. We are here to this whole series just to give you anything you want to know about buy and hold. And what's great about him, Oggie, is he's an investor. He owns his own, and he's a property man. He owns a property management company, so he knows it from all angles. Anyways, Oggie, thanks for jumping on. We will see you next week around this time. And if you didn't see this, you could be watching it live right now, or you could be watching it tonight, tomorrow, next week. They'll be up and posted, and they'll be here forever. And then if you belong to my email database, you'll get reminders that it's here. So anyway, thanks for jumping on. See you, Oggie, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Yep. See ya.